Brett Blundy says Australia retail will be okay. And of course, now he's one of the titans of retail. He reckons everything's going to be okay. So, Gayle, can you talk to me about some of the data you're seeing on the consumer sector?
Yeah, I think retail is really interesting because if you look at some of those retailers that were struggling pre-pandemic, the pandemic has given them a shot in the arm in terms of the government stimulus, in terms of landlord support, in terms of consumers being cashed up. And, a number of them have actually been able, I think, to quite successfully pivot to e-commerce. And we've seen the numbers grow incredibly in terms of e-commerce numbers, up 30-40%. And, it's been quite sticky in terms of keeping people online. Interesting, this lockdown didn't see quite the same increase in terms of online, but it's here to stay. And I think where Brett's going as well is that Australia, compared to the US and the UK, has still got some way to go in terms of, I guess, the e-commerce cap, in terms of how much people want to, shop online versus shop in store. I still think there's going to be some recalibration around store footprints, and Australia has one of the largest, per population in terms of retail store square meterage. And I think there still will be an adjustment. I know there's been some negotiations with landlords, but the jury's out as to whether that's been firm enough in terms of recalibrating, their retail stores and what they need to attract people to either buy in store or buy online. But I think, there's going to be a pretty good Christmas generally for retailers. I think people are buying early. We saw people going crazy in Sydney at Kmart on Monday, open 24 hours, and people were queuing up to get in there. So there will be a bit of a honeymoon period. I think as we go into the new year, that's where we see kind of probably that readjustment back. And I think it has brought forward some of the spending. But people have spent money differently during the pandemic, and I think a lot of that's been centered on the home. Obviously, people are working from home, and seeing their sofa, and they need a new sofa, a new office setup, etc. And have bought some bulky goods again. It's probably brought forward some of that spending. I think the biggest challenge for retail is going to be around freight. With costs there have gone up astronomically over this period. And, we've seen Australia Post come out as well this week in terms of real concerns around meeting deliveries. They've got their own challenges. And as we open up, there's going to be more COVID cases and how they manage that. So, there's a lot of things to juggle. And I still think there will be a hangover in terms of inventory that retailers will need to deal with. So, I think in summary, I think there's an initial kind of boost. But some of that will, the hangover may come through early next year.